that we're truly tuning in for. Sean O'Malley, Merab Dvalishvili. I was kind of torn. I went with Sean O'Malley prior to the fight. I thought he'd pull it off, but I didn't think it was going to be easy. But I did see a relatively straightforward path for both men. We all know what happened. Merab was phenomenal. He really was. The way that he was constantly in perpetual motion, moving the whole time, more so than any other of Sean O'Malley's opponents. The problem with him moving so much is that how can Sean corral him up against the fence? How can he use the striking? How can he use the reach, the speed, the better technical prowess that he has? If Merab's just moving the whole time, and the only time he's not moving is when he's throwing unorthodox head kicks or launching you through the air with singles or blast doubles, and to keep up that pace, that momentum for 5 rounds, it shows once again the cardio brilliance of Merab Dvalishvili.
I thought he was going to, I thought he was going to go in with the regular game plan that he does every single time. And I think it's unfair to say that he did end up doing that. He changed a few little things. He was better timed on his takedowns. He wasn't spamming them as often as he did before. He shot a lot and he was putting the pressure on a lot. But I mean, there'd be times he's shooting 10, 12 times in a round. Maybe he gets one, maybe he doesn't, but I thought his takedowns were really well timed. I thought his motion was well timed, just in terms of constantly moving his head and the hand movement up and down and the unorthodox stuff. But honestly, O'Malley kind of laid an egg too. If we're just being honest, I need to be a bit critical, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to Sean. I love his game. He's super exciting, but that he didn't put his best foot forward. And I think that's partially some of it is him. Did he underestimate Merab? Did he think he was going to be easier to hit? Is he believe in his own hype a little bit? Maybe. And some of it is just Merab made some adjustments and changed his game just a little bit in terms of his output and his approach. So I don't want to take that away from Merab, but O'Malley looked flat from the very beginning. He wasn't as light on his feet as he typically was. He always does a lot of stance switches, but he's usually dynamic with it and kind of floats across the center line as he's doing it. He's a little more tricky. His output was very, very low, which I think a lot of it had to do with Merab because he doesn't want to overextend a bunch and give up those takedowns as easily as he did. But it didn't matter anyway. So it seemed like in the 3rd round, he started to kind of get a little bit of his juice back. He seemed to have a little bit of fire in him. And I thought I started to see some of that brilliance in the 3rd round. And then it kind of went away after that. So he looked off. And I think some of that's Merab and some of that is he, I don't know. He didn't show up. The
reason he looked off, or potentially the narrative that he didn't show up, is because of Merab. Because think about it. Look at the other opponents. Yes, granted, Aljamain Sterling, great wrestler. Petr Yan does have great wrestling ability, but predominantly likes to fight on the feet and will mix in a takedown if he needs to. But Merab was taking him down. Merab was moving a lot. And then when you start getting taken down and you start getting controlled and you start having a guy who's dominating you, starts kissing you on the shoulders, and then lets go of a takedown and says, screw it, it's okay, it's all good. I can take you down whenever I want. I talk about it all the time, and it's a cliche to say. That slows down the striker's output because you're like, crap. He is taking me down. I didn't think he'd be able to. I thought I'd be able to pick him apart. And you start going into panic mode in your brain, and you start thinking, shit, I'm going.
He didn't deal with the adversity well at all.
It's like, shit. Okay, I'm going to move around. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not doing anything because I'm now on my back again. And I'm getting ground and pounded, and I'm getting my neck squeezed, And that is why you have to really admire and respect all of these guys that went on these long runs as a champion. Jones, St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, Mighty Mouse, because they went through all of these styles and they were able to do it every single time, even if they're having a supposed bad night and look flat.
Yeah, he didn't deal with the adversity very well. You could see right away in the 1st round, like, oh, he's not enjoying this. Like, he wasn't expecting this, which, again, I think a lot of that's Merab. He did do some things differently. I think what Merab managed to do is he took a predictable style that he brings every single fight, and found little nuances and little ways to change it enough to make it unpredictable. Because the constant spamming takedowns over and over and over becomes predictable, and then you're just kind of a sitting duck out there. I think this is why they put this fight together. It almost had an impossibility of being a boring fight because Merab refuses to take a backward step. He's constantly, forcing the action and the pressure and constantly attacking the takedown. And then you get a guy like O'Malley who kind of feeds on that, and he needs you to come to him. We can go back to the Pedro Munoz fight for the one guy that refused to come to Sean O'Malley and bring the fight to him. And he was losing that fight until it ended up being a no contest and was struggling with, having to chase down Pedro Munoz. And I think as time went on, he fixed that problem. But at the time, he really struggled with a guy that wouldn't bring the fight to him. Merab wasn't going to be that guy. It almost seemed like the UFC put this together because who knows who's going to win, but it's going to be impossible for this not to be exciting because Merab's going to force the pressure. O'Malley's going to be on the outside, going to pick him apart, going to hit these big shots, and it's going to be a barn burner. And Merab just changed his game. Said, no, I'm going to be active on the outside. I'm going to be moving my hands. I'm going to be moving my head. I'll be throwing him a bunch of shit. And then when he comes forward, the takedowns, it's been a while since I've seen Merab take people down that clean in the center of the octagon. It was clean. It looked great.
The reality is that when you're the champion and then there's somebody in the division on a 10-fight win streak, you're going to face them, and he was the next clean contender. He beat Jose Aldo, he beat Henry Cejudo, he beat Piotr Yan, he beat 3 former champions, and on a 10-fight win streak, the man could not be denied. It is what it is. He went out there, he beat him soundly. There was absolutely no argument. The only argument I had, and let's talk about some of the shenanigans of Merab, because, not only did he win, and we all like Sean. I think Sean's great for the sport. I love talking to him. I love his personality. And I still think he's an amazing fighter. He's a great striker. He definitely has some work to do in the takedown defense area. However, Merab not only was dominating the fight, he was dominating it psychologically. Right from the start. That was a bit crazy with Tim Welsh when he was like, excessive coaching. Have you ever seen Herb Dean, by the way, was getting involved way too much for my money. I ain't talking shit about Herb.
I am. I will. I'm going to.
Okay.
And this is, again, I know Herb's going to see this because he's so involved in the sport. He sees everything. It's not a personal attack. Anytime I see Herb, we shake hands. It's a, hey, how are you? Hope things are well. Like, I need to preface that. Like, this is not personal.
Just on that note, though, real quick, I know the same thing. I walk into the Apex every week or wherever it is, and they do watch this shit, and they do take it personal as human beings, and they do pull you to one side and say, "Hey, can we just talk about that?" I'm like,
which I appreciate.
We're going live in 5 minutes.
I'll stop. I'll stop and say,
I am going live in 5 minutes. I'm like, bro, I can't.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
32 fighters that I've got to know. I've got to look at my notes. But anyway,
I got more time than you got. Yeah, I got more time than you got. But I welcome those conversations because this isn't a personal thing. This is me speaking from a person who spent my entire adult life inside of that octagon on the other side of what you're doing. So it affects me very seriously, and it has for almost 20 years. So I do have a strong opinion about it, and it's not personal. I think Herb's a great guy. I've actually, spent a little bit of time around him in some social situations. Lovely man, enjoyed every moment. But he found himself in a weird, funky position because I'm sure behind the scenes you got guys complaining about Tim Welsh coaching the other person, and there's a lot of beef there and a lot of problems. So if Merab wants to spend his time in the octagon when he should be fighting Sean O'Malley, talking to the other coaches, that should be on him. That's his business.
Him. Yeah.
And although Tim Welsh talking to Merab is maybe a dirtbag move, I don't believe that it should be illegal. Because if I can kick you in the face, why can't he talk to you? Be a man and ignore it.
Just playing devil's avocado, it could be maybe it's some weird kind of code like some of the coaches use. It might sound like I'm talking to Merab, but I'm really talking to Sean. They don't know that. This is the game.
That's how football is. That's how football is. They're all on the sidelines doing all this weird shit all the time because they're hiding their signs. Hide your signs.
I'm a cornerman. Words are going to come out of my mouth. They're both going to hear them. Okay. Right. Yes. That's a great point. It's a great point. Telling him to work.
Yeah.
When he's in a dominant position and he's clearly working, it was a bit much,
it was fast. It was fast. And I, the whole fight, I'm hearing Herb talk back to Tim Welsh. Like, Ignore him. What are you doing? Pay attention to the fight, bro. Ignore Tim Wells. She's like, you're coaching me now. Let me worry. Stop. Have those conversations in between rounds. But during it, now you're taken away from the broadcast because now I can hear you talking to the other coach and I'm not paying attention here. Like
Tim
the
Wells
constant
does like to
work.
get involved, though. He
does.
He does rub people the wrong way. I like it, but he rubs.
I don't mind him either.
He rubs people up the wrong way. I think it's hilarious. It added to the broadcast. Speaking of Herb Dean, real quick, he's in social settings. I hung out with him after a fought. I think it was Jorge Rivera or Vanderlei Silva in Australia, Sydney. An old buddy of mine, Damien, me, my dad, after my fight, and Herb Dean, absolutely hammered. Hammered. And in the end, Herb Dean had to bail. He's like, whoa, this is a bit much. I'm just going on. But he's like, oh, yeah, Mike, great hanging out with you, getting to know your father, but I'm out of it. So look, listen, we can't all get it perfect every single time.
No, and he was in a tough spot. It's a weird fight. It was a weird start to a weird fight. So I don't want to be too tough on it. But the biggest thing, I was disappointed with the constant forcing of the action. Like, Rob's just fought this guy hard for 25 minutes. Like, he's trying to hold on to a world title. If he wants to circle for 5 minutes, that's on Sean O'Malley. Like, I'm not saying if you go through an entire fight, if we're in the third round and you got one guy that won't engage, then we can start to force the action. But instead of just saying it while it's happening, if you got a really big problem with it, then stop it, talk to him real quick, say, hey, we got to fight here. Like, there's nothing happening. Because there is a rules, timidity. Like, you got to engage. He just spent 20 minutes doing nothing but engaging.
And he was engaging in the fifth round as well. He was being a little bit more cautious. There was a little bit more movement.
Shit, wouldn't you? You only win with a title. That's an easy win.
Yeah, but O'Malley had just landed the best shot of the night. Just front kicked him in the stomach, hurt him a little bit, but he was still pushing the action. Solid win for Merab Dvalishvili. Yeah. And just like Sean O'Malley, when you become the champion, you've got a murderer's row of people. Now it's the same thing with for Dvalishvili. Umar Nurmagomedov probably deserves the shot next. 18-0. That's the problem. To go on these championship runs, you get the undefeated Umar, who can wrestle with you, who's got beautiful striking, beautiful kickboxing, trains with Habib, got that whole Dagestani aura around him, but he doesn't want to think about that. He just wants to enjoy. Brian, play that video. Merab, Valentina Shevchenko, backstage.
Oh, yeah.
Loving
this is great.
I loved it of Merab, by the way, when he jumped on the cage. The arena was emptying out. And he's still on top of the cage.
He doesn't care.
Look at these two having a little dance off.
I love this.
Yeah, me too. Why not? Fair play.
Look how happy he is.
Fought your ass off, got your title back. For Valentina, just avenged, her nemesis. So Merab just beat Sean. Everyone's standing around, the little exhibitionist, the pair of them.
Right, this is great.
It's awesome. This. It makes me miss it. It makes me miss it. The rush of victory. Afterwards, when I won the belt, there's a picture of me. I'm backstage with Dana and Lorenzo, having a little whiskey and stuff. It's the best feeling on planet Earth, and that's kind of why we do it. We do it as a career as well. Yeah. Moments like that, the joy that you feel. Highest highs, lowest lows. We know that, but that's the game.
Yeah, I remember when I won the title, and